Hey everybody, CVH here, and today we're back with another Budget of 5 video. If you're unfamiliar with this series, what I'm doing is taking established decks and decks you might see on the ladder, at relatively high ranks as well, and budgetifying them, making them more friendly to craft for new players, free-to-play players, and those just on a budget basically, by taking out all of the epics and legendaries and replacing them with commons and rares. This is the 7th installment, I believe, of the series, and you can find them all in the handy-dandy playlist. They're all organized into a playlist now, so you can watch them at your leisure. I'm making my way through all the classes, doing one deck per class before going back around probably and continuing the series long into the future. People seem to really like it, so feel free to check out some of the other installments, but today we are going to be looking at Midrange Warrior. First and foremost, I should note that the deck in front of you is actually what I was playing recently on a stream for Midrange Warrior. A lot of the Midrange Warrior decks you'll see tend to be slightly more aggressive and also focused around Orcs. So why am I not doing Orc Warrior? Well, Orcs is definitely a deck that you can build on a budget, depending on the more expensive cards you choose to craft. There are some legendaries and epics that, as I mentioned in the essential legendaries and epic guides, the epic one should be coming out tomorrow, I believe. There are some pretty essential Orcs for the archetype, which you could craft, but due to the restraints I put on myself for the Budget-ify series, we can't use Wood Orc Cannoner, we can't use Militant Chieftain, legendary and epic card respectively, and we can't use Stone Shard Orc, which came from the Madhouse collection, because I have to assume that there are no additional things purchased by the people watching these videos. But you could definitely build Orcs on a budget. Maybe some of the lessons and replacements we make in this video could help you as well. But for the purposes of this deck is just looking to curve out on its opponents. When I played it on ladder, it's very simple. I was playing some anti-mage tech just for some actions, but you're basically just curving out on your opponent, playing the best thing on curve, and that's a good deck to start with if you're a new player. Pretty simple game plan. You're playing the best card in your hand for the amount of magicka you have that turn. And that's pretty hard to go wrong with. These mid-range decks are typically a little bit less favored against straightforward aggro decks, but pretty good against control if you can curve out effectively. That said, you'll find that the deck we're working on today might do slightly better against a straightforward aggro deck, since we will have a good amount of prophecies when we're done, not to do too many spoilers. But let's get right into it and start replacing the replacing the legendary, epics, and cards from expansions with some non-legendary and non-epics. The first pair of cards we have to replace are actually not epics and legendaries, but they are from the Fall of the Dark Brotherhood expansion, which is a really good expansion. I think I mention this every single budget video, but you should look to get it if you're a new player. It is one place I would look to invest my money or gold that I have lying around. But we'll be replacing Protector of the Innocent and Dark Guardian because you can only get them through that expansion. Although I highly recommend it, we have some good replacements standing by, waiting to be utilized. For the Protector of the Innocent, we have Lurking Crocodile, which does not have Guard, but functions pretty much the same way as for our purposes. We're not a defensive deck, Guard's just a kind of an upside. Sometimes it's okay to not have Guard, because you can stick the Crocodile in the shadow lane, be comfortable knowing your opponent can't attack it, and then use that to make sure you get the damage in. Of course, if you need a Guard, Crocodile can't help you, but it's a good card nonetheless, and to replace Dark Guardian, we do have another Guard. It's another 3 cost, and it actually has Prophecy, so they're just different cards. This one isn't necessarily worse. Most people believe Dark Guardian's of a higher power level, and I tend to agree, but this card can be more useful for an offensive line. It can add damage to your push, which Dark Guardian cannot do, so Mortal Gatekeeper should be pretty fine here. Then we also have Withered Hand Cultist, which we will be subbing out, and nothing really does what the Cultist does. It is a very potent anti-action card. That said, that was just what I was teching for the specific day. Overall, Withered Hand Cultist might not even be correct if you have it, depending on what the meta looks like where you're playing. And we have another solid 3-drop that we can include as well. This is another solid 3-drop, by the way, if you have Fall of the Dark Brotherhood and you're looking for a budget replacement. Stalking Shadow Scale is quite good, but for our purposes, we can't use it, and we'll be playing Hrothgar Artisan. 3-drop 2/3, just giving a creature +1/+1 that's going to help us buff our little guys like Deathless Draugr, which a lot of people would play Iliac Sorcerer over. I was testing this out, and as it turns out, it works pretty well for us in this Budget-ify video, because it's a very easy card to get your hands on. Buff that up with the Morgul the Artisan. We can make this a pretty real card on the board and hard to deal with relatively easily, and Artisan's just a powerhouse anyway. Anyone who's played Arena knows that Artisan's very good in that format, and close to being playable in Constructed as well. It just competes with so many other 3-drops. But for this deck, for the Budget-ify series, it's a perfect inclusion. Next, we have 3 copies of Earthbone Spinner, and you've seen me replace this card multiple times in the Budget-ify series if you've been watching all the installments. And today we're just going to take out 3 copies of that and add 3 copies of Cursed Spectre. 4-drop Silence, the math checks out there. It's also a Prophecy, so instead of being able to deal the extra damage and the additional attack point, we have Prophecy, which is sometimes very, very powerful. So not necessarily always worse than Earthbone Spinner, but just a lower power level card in general. Garnag, not required, like I mentioned when I was discussing the legendaries and the essential legendaries video. It's a good card for these kind of aggressive decks, however, can, you know, sort of mitigate the problem cards that you might encounter before they have the Magicka to be played. Garnag we'll be just taking out, and we'll just do a simple replacement for this one, another 4-cost creature that is good for the deck, that will actually get better for the deck after we do some other replacements. A 3rd Restless Templar to make sure our life is high enough against those other aggressive decks, and it actually packs a hell of a punch too. 5 attack is serious business for real. And then we have to take out 3 copies of Preserver of the Root. Like I mentioned, this card is a very high power level card, and it's kind of hard to find a card that efficient when you're thinking about a 4-drop 6/6 with Guard. That said, Midnight Sweep, again on the same page. You might have seen me make some of these replacements before, but Midnight Sweep, a totally reasonable card, nothing really wrong about it, and we are increasing significantly the number of prophecies in the deck, which will only serve to benefit us against similar speed decks or aggro decks. And as I mentioned a lot, when you're low level, low on the ladder, low ranks, just starting out in the game, you'll probably encounter more aggressive decks because, as we're finding out, they are easier to build, and they're typically a bit cheaper than control decks, so, you know, having extra game against those decks can't be bad. The next card we have to cut is a bit of a doozy. It is one of the monthly reward cards for Legends, Sower of Revenge. I can't really overstate how good this card is enough. I think if you're planning on playing a warrior deck, this is one of the first things you should really look at crafting. It is one of the most insane cards in the game from a strict power level standpoint for the amount of Magicka you're spending. Especially true for a more aggressive style of warrior, such as the deck we're working on right now. And since you can't actually pull it in the core set packs, I don't know if they're going to do a deal for these monthly reward cards in the future that you can get your hands on the ones you missed, but this is a seriously important card for any warrior deck. Kind of upset that we won't be able to play it today in the video, but we are going to cut 3 copies of Sower of Revenge, and nothing really does what Sower of Revenge does. So what I'm going to do here is actually play a 3rd copy of Steel Scimitar, which is an overall, you know, well-rounded and fine item. Wouldn't hate on anyone for playing a 3rd copy of this. You could also wind up playing 3 Rapid Shots. 3 Rapid Shot actually might be the play now that I'm thinking about it more. I was thinking about Cast Out and Scimitar. Yeah, there's like a bunch of different replacements, anything we think the deck might need. A tech choice, if you have any of the other cards we mentioned, you can sub them in. I think I'll just play 3 Rapid Shots, actually. Since we don't have the Withered Hand Cultist in the deck anymore, we don't really feel the pain of playing cards like Midnight Sweep, Rapid Shot, even Cast Out, which is what I was thinking of for some spot removal. There are a lot of different cards you could play here. Cast Out makes sense as well if you wanted to go that route, because we're going to be taking out the 3 copies of Belligerent Giant, so Cast Out can be a pretty strong tempo play. But Rapid Shot's fine if you're just trying to trade with things early in the game. Cycles a little bit, helps you trade up, you know, good removal against other aggro decks. I like Rapid Shot, but I wouldn't mind Cast Out, 3rd Scimitar, any other cards you might want to play as well. And then we have some more difficult things to replace. 7 of our late game cards. As you all will know if you watched my deck type video, if you just know what midrange is, it's an aggressive deck that sacrifices some of the speed of an aggro deck for density of threats, and these threats really come into play, the 6s and the 7s, and maybe even up to 9 in certain decks, against the control decks, because those are the threats after threats that you keep dropping, and your opponent will eventually run out of answers to them, and they'll just beat your opponent down with the raw value and stats that they offer. No Gortwog, which is a fine card for us, even though a little bit unnecessary compared to the others. 3 Belligerent Giants and 3 Bone Colossus, a bit harder to live without. That said, Blackworm Necromancer is one of these cards, and we do get to keep it, and we will be adding a 3rd copy of it, as a matter of fact, which will help us get some of these cards back. And we will also be utilizing the 3rd Templar to stay ahead on life for that, and the 3 copies of Triumphant Jarl I'll be adding. So instead of just being able to drop the biggest threat we possibly can with something like a Bone Colossus, or even a Nogli, which would also be reasonable in the deck if you happen to have one of those, we will just be drawing extra cards and keeping the pressure alive that way, even though Jarl is weaker on stats than the cards we've taken out. And we can also add some additional burst to the deck with another card that I've used before in the Budget-ify videos, Savage Ogre. So 3 copies of this is going to round the deck out and allow us to buff our guys pretty high really fast. We have a lot of ways to increase the damage output of our board now, which is, I think, a benefit compared to how it was before. our opponent can see a certain amount of stat points on the board and feel relatively safe, then we can use our cards like Moorcool Gatekeeper, Rothgar Artisan, Savage Ogre, Third Scimitar if you want to play it. A lot of ways to increase the power output that we have and surprise our opponents and burst them down from a higher life total than they expected to be dead at. So I do like the Savage Ogre, especially for these budget decks. I've actually played it a bit in Constructed before, in optimized decks just to test it out, and it's a pretty good card, period. We do lose out on some of the serious late game threats though. If you have any of these epics, such as, let's see, Child of Hircine's a good example, Stampede Sentinel's a good example, there are some bad ones, Night Shadow's a good example. If you have these cards and you can sub them in, Wrath of Sithis from the Fall of the Dark Brotherhood rather, any of the cards we've taken out, of course this is just a way to play the deck with no legendaries and epics, but if you're somewhere in between, as I'm sure most of you are, and have pulled that one lucky good epic or legendary for the deck, by all means, feel free to play it in place of some of the cards that I've just added, but for the sake of a deck made of all commons and rares, without any of the additional expansions or monthly cards, I think this deck is going to do pretty well, so hopefully you guys enjoy, and stay tuned for some gameplay of the deck at casual mode, where we can discuss some of the plays and some of the inclusions we've just made. Alright, so let's see how this casual game goes with Midrange Budget-ify Warrior. Like I've mentioned in the past, mid-range decks are typically a good starting place for budget decks. They're just simple to understand, simple to play. You're just trying to curve out, play your highest value card for every Magicka drop, and win the game like that. Let's keep a 2 and a 3. Seems pretty good with the Ring of Magicka. You definitely would like to have the Ring of Magicka more often than not with this deck. We have 2 3-drops, so we can choose which one is more appropriate. And we're up against Noob all day, so that's encouraging. Also fun that we have the entire deck premium. I like when that happens. I think this is the second or third time that's happened for a Budget-ify video. I think maybe one of them got completed after I recorded the video. But yeah, if my voice sounds tired also, by the way, it's because I just got done a 6-hour stream, and before the stream I was spending about 2 hours recording the whole epic, essential epics to craft video for YouTube, which will be edited and updated up on YouTube tomorrow, I do believe. So yeah, my voice is relatively exhausted, but I'm never too tired to play some games and curve out on people and kill people with Savage Ogres. The question here is whether or not we continue to play 2-drops or just start going into our 3-drops, and honestly, I say let's just hit him with the power. Let's just bring out this young mammoth, attack this Kvatch soldier, and continue the beating. And next turn we can follow up with a Haunting Spirit, which will be really annoying to deal with, hopefully. And then hopefully 2 2-drops. It's not unlikely that we could draw another 2-drop in the next couple of cards. And then we can use the Lurking Crocodile along with it to really maximize how much damage we can put on board. And if all goes well, we would still indeed have a ring charge left that we could use on maybe a Jarl, Blackworm Necromancer, Savage Ogre. Things are looking good. Or we could just play another Mammoth. I'm down with the Mammoth plan. But yeah, in this deck, you want to be going aggressive, but you also want to make sure you have the board, because as you can see from the deck list, we don't really have any ways to take back a lost board, as most mid-range decks do not, especially budget versions. So yeah, we're going to be taking this favorable trade here. It also pushes some damage, which is fine with me, playing another Mammoth. Very high stats. Young Mammoth, one of the best cards in the game, actually, and so the fact that it's a rare is really budget-friendly in itself. And we don't mind this because it took his entire turn, I do believe, unless he had played a 1-drop there, but a 1-drop isn't affecting too much. Let's attack first and see if we hit anything. We do not. I do think it's difficult because I kind of want to save my ring charge. Looks like we have a Savage Ogre coming up for 2 turns from now, so I think I will just play the Spirit here, but I wouldn't fault anyone for wanting to bring out this Crocodile. We just have such a dominating board presence already that I don't think it's required. And if we bring out the Crocodile here, and if we don't draw another creature for next turn, it is likely we just float a lot of Magicka next turn. So using the ring charge just to push some extra damage, but still floating a lot of Magicka next turn, not using it I mean, not ideal. If we had a Sower of Revenge to follow up, however, we would be playing the Haunting Spirit and the Croc, and then Sower of Revenge, and we wouldn't even need the next couple cards. We'd probably just kill our opponent with those. But things are looking good. Vicious Drag with no target. Could use the ring charge here for the Triumphant Jarl. Let's attack first again and see what happens. So we have 7 on board, we could make that 10, and then we could ring out the Savage Ogre and make that 15 for the turn after if he doesn't kill anything, but that's not enough to kill our opponent. We could Rapid Shot and cycle here, and then play Croc and maybe a 2-drop that we get. We could just play the Jarl. We don't need the cards, though, and I kind of would like to... Well, maybe we don't play Savage Ogre next turn. You know what, I just say let's Jarl. Yeah, we can even clear that up if we want. We'll give ourselves the option, but I don't think I'll be taking the trade. I think I'll be just going face. But in case he does have any lane-specific removal, if he's running Dawn's Wrath in a couple turns, or if he's playing the 6-drop yellow card that I just can't remember the name of right now for some reason. Good lord, what happened to me? Immolating Blast, that's the name of it. I just had to Google it. I really just couldn't live with myself not remembering the name of that. Whew. Alright, so what do we want to do this turn? We could take a favorable trade. We are trading here, I think. Yeah, I think let's just trade this in, then trade that in. Buff that for sure, deal it a 7 damage, and then play some more things. We could keep that alive, but then we're not getting the extra damage guaranteed. Yeah, well, I'll just trade it, I think. Make sure we push 7 this turn, that's just a ton of damage. And then we can play Ford too. So if the 5-2 lives, if the 7-7 lives, we get to Savage Ogre one of them and attack for lethal bypassing the last rune, since we will just be killing our opponent straight away from a life total higher than 5.
There's a plan. There's always
He could heal a bit. He's gonna need to heal for more than a bit, though. Yeah, and even if he did, it's likely the game would end in a couple turns. We got the old 7 plus 5. And that, I think, is gonna do it. Let's play another one and hope it goes as well as that one did. Alright, well, but you don't have to ring the Magicka this time, so I think we'll be shipping all 3 of these and really trying to get a 2-drop, if not even a 1-drop. We do have a pair of 2s to choose from. We had a 1-cost 2, but that's not really something we can play. Yeah, you could just play more 1-cost creatures if you're on a budget. Maybe the Deadly Draugr? I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the card. I like the flexibility of a card like Rapid Shot or Cast Out or the Scimitar like we mentioned. We could bother with that. Playing the Dragon Tail Savior, he'll go up to a 3-3, then we could take a trade. He might just be planning to move out of that lane, but even if he buffs that up to unreasonable heights, we have the Cursed Spectre.
The longer the odds, the sweeter the victory.
Ring of Magicka would be pretty great for us. We could play 2-drop and Rapid Shot on the Harpy. And I do really like that. I really do. I think I'll just play another Savior here. It's hard to kill, get a 3-3 value.
The longer the odds, the sweeter the victory.
And I like that because we don't need the Rapid Shot to kill that next turn. It'll be a 4-4, so Rapid Shot looks like it'd be pretty good. And it wouldn't be that bad, but we have Cursed Spectre to bring it right down to a 2-2 so we can even take a favorable trade. So with this line, we're really committing to the Cursed Spectre if we want to kill the Cutpurse next turn. And I think that's fine. Is he really going to trade for us?
The forest is my strength and my courage.
He is not. He is potentially playing that before breaking a rune, which, yeah, he's doing a lot before giving me a card here. So that would not be totally correct there. Gave me extra information. Yeah, I think we just take the trade and play the Cursed Spectre this turn. Goes back down to a 2-2 where it will stay.
My sword hand itches.
Definitely okay with that. We get a favorable already. Yeah, that's one I definitely would have played Dig and Test the 2-2 if that were my only option. Hey, we drew a 3-drop. That's perfect to go along with our Greystone Ravager. And could even make the case to go face here. But we are behind in life, and I want to kind of regain that. So if he removes that and the Cutpurse gets to attack forever, it could be an issue. Take over the field lane.
My sword hand itches.
Another courier. Another arrow in the knee. Is that two? We have taken some arrows to the knee. Yep, here I'll just go for the Mammoth and the best on-curve play we have, which is Midnight Sweep. No real need to buff things, no real need to rapid shot anything. Sometimes you can rapid shot just to cycle. Sometimes you can even rapid shot your own guys to cycle. That's rarely correct, but occasionally it is. But definitely not now. We don't need the extra cards that badly. Usually that happens when you're desperately searching for that last bit of damage.
Destruction is at hand.
Nice try. Care to go again?
You always want to be thinking about how much damage you could potentially hit your opponent with too. Right now it's 16 if we wanted to play Savage Ogre. But I don't think we want to do that. Yeah, I think I want to trade with 3 things. These 3. And then one of them should get buffed by the Morkul. We're going to plan on rapid shotting that later, but we want to use that to trade with that after we're attacking with everything else. Seeing where it goes. Yeah, let's do it.
Too late for you. Kill them all.
Let's spread the stats around a little bit. Sure, we can buff this one.
Kill them all.
Alright, didn't interact with the Mammoth, it's fine. Get some breakthrough damage there. Looks like he did get a Prophecy, but we have a chance at something good too. You could have saved one more thing to attack. Yeah, no. We don't want the Ashlander to kill something. Ordering is interesting this turn. Definitely interesting. But now, we could just double rapid shot that, but I don't think I like that too much. He's just going to kill the 2-2, whereas this will take 4 damage away from me, so I'm going to do this. Yep. Then he takes the 2-2 out. We have 7, 11, 12, 13 damage on board, so any 1 extra damage will kill him, and we already have 5 extra damage that we could play. Goldbrand. Well, now we need whole 5 damage, don't we? He's removing the 4-2. Does he have another arrow in the knee? A third one? Okay, a firebolt. Alright, with silences in the game, I definitely think he should have traded there. Definitely think he should have traded there. So that's 2 damage, 5, 7, 12 damage. We could maybe Blackworm Necromancer be like a Cursed Spectre. I think it makes more sense than rapid shotting and trying to draw the third rap. Wait, no, that is the third rapid shot. Bad counting rapid shots. Alright, let's Blackworm Necromancer. Cursed Spectre.
I live to serve.
Nope, still fine.
Too late for you.
Attacking with the one that has more attack value first. Using our Magicka efficiently, which is exactly what we want to be doing with this deck. And again, we're at the place where if any one creature sticks here and he doesn't heal, or guard both lanes, or just kill literally everything, we should win next turn. Killing everything is actually pretty realistic here. He could do that and then Ice Storm the board, but I think we're probably in the clear.
The Hist will reclaim me.
Alright, another Savage Ogre victory. Savage Ogre is quite the win condition, guys. So that's a bit of Midrange Warrior in casual mode. Hopefully you enjoyed the deck building and the gameplay of it. As always, I do think these budget decks are very reasonable, even in their super budgetified form, the way I do them in the video. If you're in the middle of the road where you already have some epics and legendaries that you can sub in, even better. But if you're just trying to grind for soul gems, farm for that kind of stuff in casual mode or against the AI, or climb the ladder, I have heard people hit legend with a few of the budget-ified decks that we did on the channel so far, and I think this is another one that could get you pretty far, so hopefully you enjoyed, and as always, if you did, feel free to leave a like. Also consider subscribing to the channel, helps the channel grow a lot. I do daily videos for Elder Scrolls Legends, you'll see more budget decks, more crafting guides, gameplay videos, deck techs, all that kind of stuff. Follow my stream in the description, you can catch me live there, and I'll see you guys next time.